Well, good morning. Yes, it's me, Kenny Polcari, your host of the party, and today is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. And look at this day out here. The sky is blue, just one or two clouds you can see behind me. The sun is out, shining on my back. It's already about 80 degrees. It is gorgeous. But here are the things you need to know to get your day started today, right? So just think NVIDIA. That's all you need to know. NVDA, that's it. All done, right? Bonds, gold, the dollar, and the VIX all holding steady. The FOMC minutes are due out at 2 p.m. today. Don't hold your breath. You're not going to learn anything new. Oil got slapped yesterday as some suggest that demand is waning. I mean, it's exhausting. Can you even believe it that demand is waning? I don't see it. And Netgear is the latest idea that I'll toss at you. And what do we have for dinner tonight? Well, we're going to try the Sicilian swordfish. It's a great dish, and it's always a crowd pleaser. Okay, so yesterday the Dow added 66 points. The S&P gained 14 points. The NASDAQ tacked on another 38 points. The Russell lost 4 points. The transports got kicked in the gut, losing 267 points, and the equal weighted S&P gave up 5 points. Bonds held steady. Gold continues to trade at $24.50 an ounce. The VIX remains in the low 12s, suggesting no fear, which is always an issue. The Bloomberg Commodity Index is trading at levels that suggest higher inflation is just around the corner, while oil got whacked on the idea that the global economy is slowing and that demand for oil must be collapsing, which is contrary to what the estimates all are, and it's really exhausting, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, brace yourself. The bar is high. Traders around the world are glued to their computers, right? Algos are chomping at the bit just to react. Futures this morning are a little bit negative, and you can feel the pressure. It's Wednesday, May 22nd, and yes, in 10 hours, Jensen Huang is going to take to the stage and deliver the results for NVIDIA. Make sure you're ready to hear what he has to say, because what he says will create all kinds of activity, not only for NVIDIA, but potentially for the broader market. Now, the risk here is that he says something that is somehow disappointing, or at least perceived as disappointing. And that doesn't meet the expectations that the street has created for itself beyond what the published expectations are and have been. These are known as the whisper numbers, and they are an unofficial estimate of a company's earnings per share made by some analysts and certainly some professional traders as they just chat amongst each other. Some argue that the whisper numbers are often more accurate than the official consensus estimates because they are the numbers that they're analysts' true expectations, right? Versus the estimates that are kind of guided to the analyst by the company. And the kicker here is that the whisper numbers are usually reserved for the best clients, right? The brokerage house's best clients. It's one of these I'll pat your back, you pat my back benefits for the best clients. But as they continue to whisper this number around the street, it grows louder and louder, and suddenly it's not a whisper anymore, Karish? Anyway, it reminds me of the famous song, right? I heard it through the grapevine, originally released by, guess who? Gladys Knight and the Pips in 1966, before Marvin Gaye took ownership of it in 1968, right? I gave you both versions in my note. You can contrast and compare both versions. Now, you can feel the tension. Yesterday, they closed NVIDIA up another $6 to end the day at $953.86, up 92% year to date and up 24% in the last month. This morning, in the early morning pre-market trading, some traders are choosing to hit the sell button just to lock in some profits just in case. Now, at 5:30 this morning, NVIDIA was down $5 at $948 a share, giving up most of yesterday's gains, right? Again, the consensus estimate for earnings per share is $5.64 a share. That's a 414% increase. Revenues of $25.5 billion, up 265%. The whisper number is $26 billion. That's up over 300%. My sense is that anything less than $26 billion is going to be viewed as a negative by the street, by traders and algos, right? As a disappointment, which is the first issue. The second issue is, will Jensen tell us that clients are choosing to wait for the next generation NVIDIA chip called the Blackwell, which was developed to even accelerate advances in artificial intelligence? Now, there is a current rumor that Amazon has chosen to wait for this new chip, which is why I think maybe you're seeing some pressure on the stock this morning, right? As of 5:30, like I said, Amazon is not committed or confirmed or denied this rumor. Now, just to prepare you, the Blackwell chip is due out late in 2024. It's the successor chip to the Hopper and the Lovelace microarchitectures. It's an upgrade from the current H100 chip, which is currently the most advanced chip in the industry. Now, if somehow he disappoints, right, defined as missing the whisper number, then watch as they crush the stock in the after-hours session, and then how they crush the market tomorrow morning when investors get a chance to react to the details. Because so much of this rally has been built upon the NVIDIA chip and the expected future demand, and oh my God, NVIDIA, NVIDIA, NVIDIA. Now, if he does not disappoint, like I believe he is not going to do, then watch as the stock surges up and through $1,000, which I can only hope, and the NASDAQ kisses and hopefully pierces 17,000 to set yet another record for the markets. Let me be clear. I think $24.5 billion is a win. Certainly $26 billion is a much bigger win. So I'm not expecting a disappointment at all. I think they win either way. But that doesn't mean that the street feels the same way or has that same view. And this is when the market is at its best. Buyers and sellers just battling it out. Who's right, who's wrong, and who wins. Remember, there are other parts of this story, right? Data center growth, operating leverage, forward guidance, and of course, something about the role that China is not playing, right? In this story. Recall that the U.S. government has banned NVIDIA from selling advanced chips to China since 2023. So get ready. The clock continues to tick. Okay, so away from all this now, yesterday we heard from Fed Governor Chrissy Waller, and he said that we need to see a continuation of softening in the data over the next 3 to 5 months, which would allow the Fed to cut rates by the end of 2024. Now, that's funny because I want to know where exactly he's even seeing softening in the economy. In any event, it is what it is. They're keeping that narrative alive to try to prevent an honest pullback ahead of the election. So they'll keep kind of teasing, well, maybe we're cutting, maybe we're not, but don't lose hope and all that stuff. Again, I'm going to say, unless we see a real decline in the economic data, I'm not sure how anyone, other than Janet Yellen, can expect JJ to cut rates, right? Cutting rates is going to stimulate demand, and that is exactly what JJ is trying to slow. And don't forget, money from the Inflation Reduction Act is due to hit the economy later this year and into next, and all that's going to do is create more demand. So I ask, I'm just not sure how many of them think that inflation is cooling or heading back to 2%, right? They could always hope, but hope is not a strategy. In any event, oil fell by 1.4% yesterday to end the day at $78.22. This after Chrissy Waller reminded us that rates are going to stay higher for longer, and higher borrowing costs are sure to slow economic growth, which, by the way, is funny because that has failed to do that so far. Costs have been higher for more than 16 months now, yet the economy continues to hum along. The job market remains strong. Economic data remains strong, all while the consumer spends more money on the basics, right? Because inflation also remains stronger than they expected. In addition, the API reports that U.S. crude oil and gasoline inventories rose last week as supply outweighs demand. Now, you're going to hear more from the EIE later today. This just as we're heading into and we're kicking off the summer driving season this weekend, right? Begins in 48 hours. Memorial Day weekend is upon us. Now, Eddie Morse, an advisor at Hartree Partners, told Bloomberg that the macroeconomic is deteriorating around the world. And that assumption, so the assumption then is that true demand for oil should be in decline. Oh boy, I just wonder what data is this guy looking at? The UK has come out of its recession. The Eurozone is not in a recession. The US is not in a recession, right? The Bank of England and the ECB are both on the verge of cutting rates, supposedly, and the narrative here in the U.S. is for multiple rate cuts, not because we're suffering a decline, but because some people think 5.25% rates are usurious. So they want to cut before we go off the edge. China is buying oil like there's no tomorrow, and OPEC Plus expects demand to grow while maintaining production cuts through the end of the year. So I'm not really sure where this guy's seeing deteriorating demand. It makes no sense to me. Anyway, this morning oil is trading at 78.29, and it remains in that 78.81 trading range. Gold is trading at 24.50 an ounce. The dollar index is trading at 104.78, and the VIX is trading at 12.12, near historic lows. Yesterday, we saw utilities in the lead, up 0.9%, taking this boring, not sexy sector up 15% year to date. We also saw gains in tech up 0.2, financials up 0.6, consumer discretionary up 0.6, consumer staples up 0.6, and healthcare up 0.2%. Sectors that came under pressure included industrials down 0.3, communications down 0.1, energy down 0.5%, and real estate down 0.1. Basic materials ended the day flat. If you go further down the scale, you know what I like to look at. Home builders down 0.1, airlines were down almost 2%, disruptive tech down 0.9, semis were down 0.3%, oil and gas exploration lost 0.7, aerospace and defense were up 1%. 0.1%, and the contra trades were all lower, while the growth and value trades were both higher. This morning, U.S. futures are down. Dow was down 50 points, S&P's down 5, the Nasdaq was down, Nasdaq is up 10, and the Russell is down 3. Eco data today includes mortgage apps, which came in at plus 1.9%. Existing home sales are due out, and they're expected to show up 0.8%. At 2 p.m., you're going to get the FOMC minutes from last month, and don't expect to hear anything new. Do not expect to hear anything new. The S&P closed at 53.21, up 13 points yesterday. This as it just churns, awaiting for today's key NVIDIA report. I suspect that's going to remain tight all day as the speculation builds, but I also expect that we're going to see it move late into the afternoon as the bets line up. A push lower suggesting one thing, while certainly a push higher into the bell is going to suggest something completely different. Now, this is not the time to fall asleep. Grab your coffee, take a seat at the table, call your advisor to help you sort this all out. Now, on a side note, recall that every once in a while, I'm going to toss you a new name to consider if you love to trade your Mad Money account, separate from your long-term investing account. This is just the money you have on the side. Names that we've discussed in the past include Groupon, which is up 23% from when we first mentioned it, although I will say it's been a wild 23%. And here, HEAR, which is up 47% since I first mentioned it in March. So today, I'm going to toss in another name, Netgear, NTGR, right? This is a $12 stock. They own 35% of the market, right? Networking, communications, routers, that kind of stuff. They have no debt. They got $290 million in cash and growing, and they got a market cap of $366 million. There's an upgrade cycle coming to Wi-Fi 7 in the back half of the year. That's going to drive demand, and there's this replacement cycle for their products, right? In addition, the connected home has lots of tailwinds for this name. A look at the chart revealed that it's been locked in this $10, $16 trading range for a while, and it might cause some caution as it attempts to fill the gap created on May 3rd, right? So just kind of watch it for a while and see what you think. This is not for the faint of heart, nor is it a specific recommendation for everyone. I'm just pointing this out as a potential opportunity that I find interesting and that I'm going to keep my eyes on. You have to go at your own pace. Okay, so what are we doing for dinner tonight? Well, we're going to have the Sicilian-style swordfish. It's a great dish. It's not that difficult to make, and it presents beautifully, right? This comes from the island just off the toe of Italy. You know, the one where it looks like the boot is kicking it. For this, you need raisins, green olives, capers, pinoli nuts, right, which are pine nuts. You need tomatoes, garlic, onion, salt and pepper, olive oil, and, of course, the swordfish. The dish is easy to make. It's going to tease your senses. It's going to tickle your palate. It only takes about 15 or 20 minutes to prepare and 20 minutes to cook. Enough time to set the table, pour the wine, light the candles, and put on the music and dim the lights. Okay, so preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Season the swordfish with salt and pepper, set it aside. Now, soak your raisins in warm water for about a half an hour, right? Drain them and then set those aside. So you can do that, you can do that earlier. You just want to get them all nice and plump again. Now you're going to heat up the olive oil in a saucepan on medium-high heat. Saute the diced onion and the crushed garlic until they're nice and soft. You know the deal, 5 or 8 minutes, don't burn it, right? You're going to add the raisins, you're going to add the diced tomatoes, you're going to add the chopped olives, yes, no pits, and you're going to add the capers, like maybe a tablespoon. But look, if you really like capers, feel free to add more, but don't add too much because it will overpower the dish, right? Now, reduce the heat to simmer and then and cover it, stirring it occasionally for about 15 minutes or so, just so that it all blends, right? Now, place the swordfish in a baking dish. Now, you can also grill the swordfish quickly and then put it in a baking dish, but either way, it's going to end up in the baking dish. Cover the fish now with the raisin, olive, caper, tomato mixture. Put it in the oven and bake it for 15 minutes or until the steaks are nice and firm. But again, it depends on how thick of a steak you have. Present this fish when it's done, take it out of the oven, present it on a warmed plate with steamed green beans and a large mixed green salad with red onions, maybe cucumbers, tomatoes, maybe some fresh mutts. Dress it with salt and pepper, oregano, a splash of fresh lemon juice, balsamic vinegar, and some olive oil. You can delete the balsamic if you don't like it. Just the olive oil and lemon is always delicious. In any event, I'm sure you will enjoy it. If done right, it comes out nice and juicy, and all those flavorings make it really, really delicious. Okay, look. The clock is ticking as we count down to 4 o'clock when we await the NVIDIA results. In any event, if it stays like this today, I think it's going to be a bright day for the markets and a bright day for NVIDIA. Until tomorrow, take good care.